Women's hockey is back on November 21st, and this is the season that you become a PWHL fanatic. Welcome back to Breaking the Ice, the series where I'm teaching you everything you need to know to become a hockey fan this season. And today we're talking about the Professional Women's Hockey League. And even though we are only in the third year of this league, we are seeing an insane amount of growth and a big expansion this year. And one of the things that is great about the PWHL is that if you feel a little too overwhelmed by the expanse of the NHL, the PWHL is a smaller league with less teams and less games overall, but with incredibly good and aggressive hockey, as well as a couple of really cool rule innovations. This season, the PWHL is adding 2 more teams for a total of 8. The original 6 teams in the league include the Boston Fleet, the New York Sirens, the Toronto Scepters, the Ottawa Charge, the Minnesota Frost, and the Montreal Victoire. In addition, we're adding 2 new teams this year in Seattle and Vancouver as the league expands all the way to the West Coast. And if you've never watched a PWHL game before, a lot of the basics are very similar to the NHL. Hockey is still played in 3 20-minute periods. Each team can have 6 players on the ice at a time, 1 goalie, 2 defense players, and 3 offensive players. And of course, the way you win the game is by scoring more goals than your opponent by the end of the game. However, there are a couple of innovations that the PWHL has that make the game even more exciting. And one of those is the jailbreak rule. Jailbreak comes into play when we talk about penalties. When one hockey player commits an offense that is called by the refs, we very simply put our players in timeout inside a glass box. That player has to sit in the penalty box for the duration of that time, meaning that their team has to play with 1 less player for the duration of that penalty. This is what we call a power play for the other team. But unlike the NHL, in the PWHL, we have something called the jailbreak rule, which means that there are actually 2 ways to end that penalty early. The first way is for the team that's on a power play, the opposing team, to score a goal. Once that happens, the penalty ends, and the original player who committed that penalty can come out of the penalty box, restoring their team to full strength. However, in the PWHL, the team that is shorthanded can also end that penalty early, and that is by scoring a jailbreak goal. If the team that's down a player scores a shorthanded goal, meaning that they actually score a goal shorthanded while their teammate is in the penalty box, that teammate then gets a jailbreak, meaning that they can return to the ice even though their penalty isn't over and the team on a power play hasn't scored. This one specific change for the PWHL made hockey really interesting last season because it encouraged teams that would typically be focused only on defense to also play offense shorthanded. If you're just getting into hockey for the first time or you've been watching hockey forever, I really recommend watching the PWHL this season. And you have a whole month to get used to the rules and the basics before the season starts. Teams are just going into training camp, which gives you plenty of time to pick your favorite team and player, and I will of course be here to guide you through any questions you have about the league. Be sure to drop any questions you have about the PWHL in the comments down below. Let me know what team you're rooting for, and be sure to follow along for the rest of the Breaking the Ice series.